my name's Nicole Sawyer, and I'm here with Jamie Fenton, and we are here today for one heck of a testimony. You are in for a surprise, everybody, and thank you for meeting with me, Jamie.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a little Texas weather, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, but we're living it. So
We're
we
getting
will get.
cold again.
Yeah, yes, it's getting cold. I kind of like the cold. I'm from Amarillo originally, so cold's kind of my second nature. All right, Jamie. So everybody's here for you, not for me. They've seen enough of me. So tell us, Jamie, how it was before you found Paws in prison, and then we'll go from there.
Well, my addiction started in 2009. I got hooked on painkillers. I was a nurse. I was actually stealing my patients' meds. Um, I got a DWI on pills, and I also had an indictment roll on me for stealing the meds. So I was put on probation. I had started making meetings, gone to rehab. Um, to this day, I am still clean off of pills. Um, but I did about 2 years, and then even though I had stolen meds, which the Board of Nursing was letting me do the TPAPPing, which is an assistant program with addiction, um, I had a sanction put on my license for 5 years that I could no longer practice.
Oh,
And so I had this bright idea that because I had sobriety, I could go work in a bar. And that didn't go very well. Within 6 months, I was a DWI2 on alcohol. And actually, alcohol was my worst demon. It took me over. Um, on DWI2, because of things that like I had put into place trying to get better, they gave me drug court for a year. I did that. I completed it successfully. And I was actually going to school to be a drug counselor. And I had a bad breakup. And my medication was drinking. And within 6 months of being out of drug court, I had DWI number 3. Went in on my birthday, did not come out. I was hanging around with the wrong guy, another guy. Guys seem to be a repetitive problem in my life, from ex-husband all the way up. Thank God, lots of therapy today. Not to mention I'm married now, but still, um, you know, I always knew about the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. I've been going for 10 years now. And so I know what it does take to stay clean and get clean and sober. Um, so get locked up and pull all my savings out. And I'm like, oh, some people in the community that I had waitress at a restaurant too, while I was going to school to be a drug counselor, they took my duplex and they took my dog. And they're like, you're just going to go do 6 months. You'll come out. And I signed for 5. All these attorneys tell you, hey, you're going down and doing a turnaround. And I remember on Valentine's Day at Gatesville being told, no, you did not make parole. And I was like, do what? I don't know how I bounced between 5 different units till I got to what they call a home unit, which now that I participate in TDCJ, that's not even a real thing. But it sounded good though at the
yeah.
time. I mean, I'll call it. Lockhart is my home unit. If I
Yeah,
go,
there you go.
we're not speaking at. I'm going back to Lockhart. Well, I can't say that because I have a rule now that in my program that if you come back within a year, you're not coming back into the program because you didn't learn something. But no. So I get to Lockhart, and in the middle of the night, they had just turned that unit from an all half men, half women's to an all women's. And I was so upset. I didn't know. I was like tired of being moved. My family, what family I do have, I get a little emotional. My family doesn't talk to me still to this day. The community is my family. I had to walk away from a narcissistic, controlling ex, and there were stipulations to see my children, and I refused to participate for my health, my sanity, and my sobriety. And that's later. But I went out to the rec yard and there was a dog. And I said, okay, now I've been sober now for at least a year. I've been locked up, not on anything. And where did that dog come from? And the dog actually looked like my dog King that I had at home. His name was Roger. And I was like, there's just no way that that's a dog. And the girl goes, oh, yeah, they got a dog program. And I said, how do you get in? She tells me you got to drop an I-60. And me and another girl had actually moved, and she came from the Patriot Paws program that evening, too. That next morning, and I mean, I dropped to my knees and I prayed all night long. Please let me just find something to pull me out of this depression again. Um, Miss G came to my door the next morning and said, hey, you want to come join the dog program? And I was like, this quick? Yes, please get me out of here. And I remember walking in and falling to my knees over the German Shepherd and just crying. And she goes, we got an emotional one here. And then I actually got put with Roger.
Oh, wow.
Um, so I show her this picture of my dog, King, and I'm like, hey, look. And she goes, oh my gosh, they're identical. I was like, just thank you for giving me a chance. I've been a sorry dog owner. I need to make some amends. And I feel like this is the way for me to make my amends to the things I've done wrong to animals in the past. And, I was actually kind of a quiet person in the dog program. There were some, we don't want to call them tank bosses, but people who thought they knew more than others.
Yeah.
Uh, I was kind of a reclusive to a couple of girls. I worked industry during the day, and I remember about 6 months into being in the dog program, Miss G comes to me and she's like, Jamie, I got too many people working in industry, and she goes, I'm fixing to tell everybody to get out. Who doesn't want to stay in the dog program? And my heart just dropped because I was doing both and I was giving it my all. And she
Yeah.
said, I need you to stay in the dog program. And I thought to myself, was the extra little $75 a week worth my serenity in that dog program?
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll quit. I'll quit my job. And she's like, okay. You know what? I was the only one who quit. And then she did not kick everybody out. And she got me. However, I was a couple of older gentlemen that I had cleaned their houses for through the years. They would send money in for my books, and I had to decide what was more important, commissary or dog.
Yeah.
And to me, yes, I understand commissary is necessary, and I was getting commissary. I did not go without. However, the dog meant more to me. The
Yeah.
dog was the only thing loyal to me at the moment. And so I quit my job, stayed in there. I still wasn't considered like one of the upper trainers. I read books a lot. I outsourced and put myself through the veterinarian assistant program through Stratford. She would tell me I could study when I wanted to, because she was proud of me for doing that. She didn't like people reading their books when they should be training. And for me, she was like, as long as it's that college book and you're doing your course, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you. And I just I idolized her. I did. She was who I wanted to be. She didn't do drama, you know. We would sit and have long conversations about how I wondered if I could start up a business doing this. Being that I was a nurse and no longer could practice and I didn't have money. When I came home, I didn't know what I was coming home to. I knew I had a duplex and a dog. And anyways, I got released. Oh, right before I got released, I got an answer, and they moved a lady into my room, our room, that was crazier than a bed bug. And, and there was a rule that if you and your bunkie could not get along, you had to give up the dog.
Yeah.
And so I went down there and said, Miss G, you need to take the dog out. And she goes, what is wrong with you? And
Yeah.
I said, I really do not trust this lady. She has multiple personalities. I'm a nurse. I'm telling you, I'm not just saying this. Something is not right here. And I was like, and I don't want to say I receive favoritism if you move her out. I'm going home next month. Move her out, move the dog out, give it to somebody else. I will work with all the other guys or
Yeah.
girls until it's time to go home. And she said, you're sacrificing yourself. She goes, you're going to be all right, Jamie. You're going to be all right. And, I got released in March of 2000. 16. Yeah, 15, because it'll be 9 years at PetSmart. I came home. Um, a little older gentleman was living in my house. He was trying to help me get along. He rented the room of the duplex I had been renting for these 2 years I was gone.
Yeah.
Um, I was trying to see my children. They were 16 and 18 at the time, and got 2 years away from them, and they had had a lot put in their head, about that I would never recover, that I would never quit drinking. And then also too, I no longer had the money I had as a nurse.
Oh yeah.
Um, I was cleaning church pews on the south side for $25 a week to pay my parole fees. If people asked me to take their dog for a walk, I was like, hey, I learned how to do this while I was locked up. I went around to different places applying, and nobody would hire a felon. And it was just disappointment after disappointment. And I didn't have the startup money. And then I called PetSmart one day and I said, hey, are y'all hiring for anything?
Mm-hmm.
And this little old man who worked the register said, well, let me get somebody on the phone with you. And he gets somebody on the phone with me, and he said, come up here. So I walked in there with like 25 Bible studies in one hand and all of the paperwork I had and my certificates from the
Yeah.
Paws in Prison program. And I said, please don't disappoint me. If you can't hire a felon, just let me know. Let's just not even go through the interview process. He goes, no, we've had a felon or two before. I don't know that you can be a dog trainer, but I'm going to find out. They hired me to start off bathing dogs. They had I never want to say that another trainer is horrible, because, we, as trainers, we should push each other up. But
Absolutely.
this man was in his addiction, and he was breaking every PetSmart policy, putting choke chains on every dog and just putting them in kennels and setting them in the room. I don't know what, and management had caught on that he was not training. And the sales were horrible. I mean, he had like 2 clients a week. That and They were like, hey, we've got to make some changes. This is not what our PetSmart promotes. So can you just sit back and bathe dogs? And I said, I will do anything. Next thing I know, I'm working register too.
Yeah.
Didn't know if a felon could work a register who had a theft. And now I have the keys to the store. And I'm the area dog trainer for the state of Texas and Shreveport. Like I do Upper Texas, Northeast Texas.
Right.
And so everything that they said I couldn't do because I was a felon, in time is starting to fall into place. And those veterinarian offices that um, refused to hire me, my business card now sits on their desk. And
Um,
heck, I even trained their dogs. Um, but I got out of the Paws in Prison program. I went to work for PetSmart. I'm coming up on 9 years of PetSmart.
Congratulations. God, that's
That's the
big.
longest I've had a job somewhere since I was a nurse,
Oh wow.
actually. And you know, I I don't think I've been written up but one time, and it was for telling a lady that that was her poop that came out of her dog, and I, you know, it wasn't my job to pick up her poop for her in a public place. But I learned my lesson that we have to please others,
Yeah.
and everything. But the lady was a little entitled, and I was just told I gotta talk nicer back then. But I was fresh out of prison too. I think I had that mentality of, we never let anybody's poop hit the ground
Yeah.
for any reason.
Yeah.
When you're locked up, you'll get called out on that.
Yeah.
So um, I've now been there, and then I started. I have a mentor that I met. She actually has a prison program for men out of Henderson, Texas, that
Okay.
they help out. But it has nothing to do with dogs. And this lady signed up for my class, and she came in one day. She bought all private sessions, and she said, "What's your name?" And I told her, and she said, "You want to go have coffee one day?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't have friends. My dogs. Don't talk to people. I come here. This is my safe little box." And that was what my life consisted of too, of completing parole. The classroom at PetSmart, the NA hall, Walmart after 2 a.m. when people weren't there, and back home. And I, I was in that mentality of the prison. Those were safe spots. The walls were what kept me safe. And I get very uncomfortable speaking in public a lot unless there's a dog there. Um, but the lady who was my mentor, She took me underneath her, and by then too, by the way, I lived by myself. I'm making $9 an hour. I'm barely paying bills. I have peanut butter and bread in my thing, and I'm just trying to pay my parole fees.
Yeah.
And no family. And this lady is now still my family to this day. As I was texting her before I called you, I owe it all to her, everything. And it's ironic. Through the years, I've trained dogs. I can say I've probably trained thousands of dogs now. Um, I have a therapy dog program. I work with service dogs. COVID really increased my business. It tripled it. Didn't know how I was going to survive during COVID, but PetSmart took care of us. The judge who sent me to prison is one of my clients.
Oh,
And
wow.
when she retired and I read the article in the paper that she wanted to train dogs, I said, oh, just, here she goes. And she is actually my biggest advocate, one of my closest friends. Um, she's guided me in some life decisions that were for me, in my sobriety. At one point, I told her I wanted to go back. And she goes, well, you know how to commit a crime, so go do it. And I said, nobody loves me. No one cares that I'm even out. And she goes, I care. She goes, I care. I never would have thought, you'd have the issues with the children that you have, but these dogs need you, Jamie, in this community. We need positive reinforcement. We need positive training around here. We need you. You were meant to do this. And she's one of my closest friends today. She was trying to save my life, and I didn't realize it. And she
Yeah.
did. She did. We look at the judges who sent us away, and I cussed, I screamed, I hated her. And now I look at my dog when I'm cuddling at night, and I think, thank God,
Yeah.
like she sent me
Absolutely.
away for 5. I did 2 on a 5. But thank God she was hard on me, because I see so many people going back and back and back too. And that mentality, I mean, I still walk around in shower shoes. I mean, I live in slides. Um, I still watch my back.
Mhm.
Prison does do things to you.
Absolutely.
That you can't
It's a
explain.
battle of a minefield. I mean,
It is.
yeah.
You always feel like people are out to get you. And all this positiveness is hard to manage. Now that's where I run into. So about 2.5 years ago, I'm training this young lady's dog, sweet young girl. She told me she volunteered in another county right around. I mean, when I say other county, it's like literally 20 minutes from us. Um, that she was part of a rescue out there, and I didn't think nothing about it. And then one day, I get this random call from this lady who goes, "Hey, I hear you do some volunteer work." And I said, well, I walk dogs at our shelter. And that's one way also I increased my business. I started giving back. So on Mondays and Tuesdays, I would go walk dogs so that they were, kind of tired
Yeah.
and available for adoption. The only time I didn't go was when the inmates were there from the jail. But thought that was a bad idea. Um, we were going to go looking. Um, However, the shelter taught me a lot about rescue, and it also taught me a lot about looking at things through different eyes.
Yeah.
They have hard jobs there. They're the ones who are constantly bashed on social media for the decisions they have to make. And we are in an ongoing problem of dogs being dumped
Yeah.
and overbreeding. And until that, there's no right or wrong answer, in my opinion, right now. People are just drowning in this, period. But this lady calls me and she says, hey, I hear you do some volunteer work. And I said, yeah, I walk dogs. And she goes, well, your name was given to me. And she tells me my client's name. Um, have you ever heard of like dogs being trained in prison? And I'm like, is this like an Ashton Kutcher episode of Punked or something?
Maybe
You
punked.
know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh? And she goes, well, we're wanting to start a prison dog program, a men's unit, and we're looking for a trainer who might be willing to just go out for a couple days a week and, help us get it started. We're really wet behind our ears. We're looking into this, and we don't even know where to start, but we got to start with knowing that we got somebody. And I said, um, do you know who I am and where I learned how to train dogs? And then I proceeded to tell her, and you could just hear her mouth hit the floor, honestly. And I think it was that week before the lady from the Paws in Prison group had did the newspaper article on me or something to try to get promotion for
I was
donation.
I was in the program at that time.
Yes,
I think it was a month prior you had had the article,
yes,
and then the warden and the well, I call her the count room lady, had come down and
yes.
toured Paul's in prison and actually my room, which was scary at the time. And
Our
yeah,
warden's a great guy.
yeah. So that's how that kind of went. So,
Well, the it was so weird. I tell her, "Hey, there's this article. Let me email it to you.
uh-huh.
Let me send you some information." The lady calls me right back and goes, "You have got to be kidding me. This is the program that like we're wanting to tour and mimic." And I said, "I lived it." And I said, "Now I need to speak with my mentors first,
Absolutely.
to see if this is something that I feel like I can handle." And I remember reaching out to Catherine
Hmm.
and saying, "Hey," like, and she's like, "Oh, Jamie, they were just here. Oh, Jamie." And I'm like, wow, I'm seeing these things and I'm like, this is so weird. This is so weird. It's like this is set up or something. And then I sat down with Judge and I sat down with my mentor. And then I sat down with my job because that was another thing. Was PetSmart going to allow this? Is
Yeah.
this considered compete? You
Hmm.
know? Now, I did my research. PetSmart sponsors 10 different prison programs across the United States. But however, right at first, I was told by somebody that their opinion didn't matter, that PetSmart would never be affiliated with something like this.
Yes.
And so I reached out to my corporate guy, and he said, "Absolutely not. You quit listening to people, and let's see what we can do." And
Absolutely.
PetSmart has been one of our biggest advocates, our biggest donators. On days I'm upset or I'm tired, I don't want to quit PetSmart because I know how much they do for us and our community. It's a lot different from being a PetSmart in a big city to a PetSmart out in a rural area like this because, like, we're a family kind of owned store. Even though we're owned
Right.
by PetSmart, we know each other in this community. And so, yeah, then I had to go meet the warden and I had to
Okay.
walk through those gates for the first time at the unit. And I had a panic attack. He had to go sit me down. He's like, "Are you okay?" I said, "I haven't heard that lock in a long time.
Yeah.
That was so weird." And we hadn't even got through the machine yet. I said, it just brought back a lot of memories. Um, I can honestly say that Billy Moore, is a wonderful unit. If I was a guy, I would want to live there
Well, there you
if I
go.
was doing
There you
time.
go.
It reminds me, it does. It's like the male version of Lockhart. Like they're held accountable. They do a great job. It's an incentive based. And if they get in trouble, they get in trouble. And
Absolutely.
I've had some issues in my program too, where I've had to kick some guys out. Um, One time there was one guy, he lasted 25 minutes.
Oh,
He
that's
did. I
unfortunate.
showed up 25 minutes later, he's out.
Yeah.
I don't play, especially being a female going into a men's
Uh-huh.
thing. But I do feel like, you know, I, I spent some time prepping, sat down with people. We started getting supplies together. The dogs come from the Russ County Pets Alive. That is a nonprofit group out of Henderson, Texas. A
Okay.
bunch of great volunteers. The goal was to start with like 5 dogs. And I think at one time we've had 12 and then we're back down to like 7. We do, with the holidays coming and going, people make it, it kind of fluctuates.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
to
We're the
mention,
same way right now. Yeah.
we share a pod. We are not just the dog pod.
Oh, wow.
And so we're in an 80 person cell block, and I have 24 guys.
Okay.
Now, the most I have had is 32. And they recently went on A Day, B Day. So they share custody now, so that everybody gets an experience with the dog.
Oh, that's
And
good.
that's worked out even better. We used to do, I know when I was locked up, we did A Day. We did every other day you were responsible for the dog. Well, they were just assigned to, or my dogs were just assigned to one cell. And I feel like some of the inmates were not getting the experience that they needed, and sitting around looking bored, it can make you not want to do things, or it can make you want to do bad things.
Yeah.
And so, um, I decided to put them all on an A day, B day. Not to mention, a lot of these men have custodial problems with their children when they go home. So why not prep them on how to drop off their kid for the day?
That's wonderful. That is
And
wonderful.
they had to open Christmas presents the other night, and I told them, I said, y'all, I don't want no fighting over who gets to open these Christmas bags.
Yeah.
And I was like, y'all get together and y'all meet at McDonald's, and
That's
y'all
right.
share
Prepping them for the real
custody.
life. That's right.
And I was like, one can take a couple of toys home, the other one can take a couple. Yeah, each got new blankets. You know.
That's crazy. Jamie, we do have to wrap up just
Okay.
because we're getting to the end of it. But I do a lot of these testimonials. I am the most social media director for Paws in Prison, and you're inspiring. You're something that has come and blossomed, and your light shines through, babe. It really, really does. And I know that your testimonial is going to reach somebody deep, and it's going to help somebody. And I so appreciate you meeting with me today. So much. Do not lose contact with me, okay? Because we're going to do a part 2 in the next year to come, okay?
Well, there's one thing. Without you guys, there would be no me. Without that program, I wouldn't be doing this. Without Miss G, I wouldn't be doing this. Without even Miss Laura keeping it going, I wouldn't be doing this. It would have never been a thought that a felon could go back in and do this.
But it is, and you're making it work.
And so I'm so proud of all of the women there. If nobody has told them that people do care, it's just not the people you think they are. People do care. You just got to let them find you. And the dog program found me.
I love you, Jamie.
Thank
I love
you.
you
And I'm
so
so
much.
proud of all y'all. Tell everyone I said hello.
I will.
When things
Okay.
slow down, I want to come.
Okay. All right.
I do.
Absolutely. We'll make that work. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
I'm invincible. I win every single game. Minds up.